In the early morning of Valentine's Day in 2013, police were called to the home of South African Paralympic sprinter Oscar Pistorious at Silverwood's Country Estate in Pretoria. Detectives arrived at the scene and found the lifeless body of 29-year-old model, lawyer, and reality TV star Reeva Steenkamp, Oscar's girlfriend of 4 months. Oscar was distraught and crying, saying that he shot Reeva thinking that she was a burglar. However, as detectives examined the crime scene and interviewed witnesses, some of their findings contradicted significant details in Oscar Pistorius' version of events. Oscar Pistorious was born in 1986 in Johannesburg, South Africa, to Henk and Sheila Pistorius. He was born with fibula hemimelia, a congenital absence of the fibula bone in both legs. When he was 11 months old, his parents decided to have his legs amputated below the knee so he could be fitted with prosthetic legs that allowed him to walk better. His parents encouraged him to play sports, and Oscar was very athletic. He attended the Pretoria Boys High School, where he played wrestling, tennis, cricket, water polo, and rugby. Unfortunately, when Oscar was 15, his mother Sheila had an allergic reaction to medication and passed away at the age of 42. This greatly affected him. His parents had divorced when he was 6 years old, and he was very close to his mother, who he described as being a positive influence on him. Oscar was originally a rugby player but suffered a serious knee injury in 2003. He was introduced to running in January 2004 when he began track training to rehabilitate his injured knee. He then transitioned to professional sprinting, running on prosthetic blades. His success in the Paralympic Games earned him the nickname the Blade Runner. Oscar was eager to compete against able-bodied athletes. However, he faced resistance from the World Athletics Body, the IAAF, which argued that his prosthetic legs provided an unfair advantage, enabling him to expend less energy than able-bodied athletes running at the same speed. Despite a temporary ban, Oscar successfully appealed. Later that year, he participated in the 2008 Beijing Paralympics, winning 3 gold medals and setting a world record in his class. In 2011, he won gold at the Paralympic World Cup and qualified for the World Championships, ranking as the 22nd fastest 400-meter runner globally. Although his times did not qualify him for the South African Olympic team, he was still selected to race in the individual 400 meters and the 400-meter relay. In 2012, Oscar Pistorious made history by becoming the first double amputee to compete at the London Olympics. Although he didn't win any medals, his achievements elevated his global profile. He earned over $1 million in endorsements with major brands and was celebrated as an inspiration for overcoming disability to becoming a world-class athlete. The media referred to him as the fastest man on no legs and described him as being half man, half machine. In his personal life, Oscar was known to be extravagant. He controversially owned 2 white tigers. He was also young, rich, and handsome. At the time, he was one of South Africa's most eligible bachelors and had a history of public relationships. On the 4th of November 2012, Oscar met law graduate and model Reeva Steenkamp, and his attraction to her was instant. Reeva Rebecca Steenkamp was born on August 19, 1983 in Cape Town, South Africa, to Barry and June Steenkamp. The family moved to Port Elizabeth, where Reeva attended St. Dominic's Priory School. As a child, Reeva was described as being friendly, respectful, happy, and compassionate. She could fit in anywhere.
Oh, Reeva was just a sweetie pie. She won't pass you without saying, "Morning, ma'am. Can I carry that for you, ma'am?" That's why I just have this picture of her, you know. It's not easy to forget about her.
She loved horse riding and poetry and wanted to pursue modeling as a hobby. After high school, she joined the University of Port Elizabeth to study law. She came from humble beginnings and funded most of her studies through academic bursaries. However, during her time in law school, Reeva experienced a series of life-changing events. She was involved in a horse riding accident where she fell off her horse and broke her back, leaving her with 2 crushed vertebrae. According to Reeva's mom, she was paralyzed and the doctors said they were not sure whether she was ever going to walk again. She was essentially bedridden for 6 weeks, not knowing her fate. In the end, Reeva made a full recovery. Her healing also brought in a new mindset. She broke up with her emotionally abusive boyfriend, and despite earning a law degree and graduating at the top of her class, she decided not to practice law. She dyed her hair blonde and chose to concentrate on modeling. She was later chosen as the first local face of Avon Cosmetics. This opportunity gave her the courage to leave Port Elizabeth and move to Johannesburg. Despite her father's concerns about the challenges of the city, Reeva sought opportunities in the modeling industry. Her journey into the modeling industry was tough. However, her determination and dedication led her to success, featuring in many magazine and print ads. She eventually gained momentum when she became a regular feature on HFM, a popular men's magazine. In December 2011, she was chosen as the magazine's cover girl. In her interview segment, Reeva used her platform for advocacy, saying, quote, "I'm passionate about standing up in defense of those who do not realize their own rights." Reeva loved her job. Her modeling career included notable print and TV ads for brands such as Toyota Land Cruiser, Clover Industries, Reds, KFC, Cardinal Beer, Hollywood Chewing Gum, and Aldo Pin Pop. Though her job seemed glamorous, modeling wasn't very lucrative. However, Reeva was ambitious and she wanted to diversify her personal brand. She decided to venture into the television industry. She was excited when she was cast as a celebrity contestant on the reality show Tropical Island of Treasure, which was recorded in Jamaica in 2012.
Hi, my name is Reeva and I'm a contestant on Tropical Island of Treasure 5, which we just shot in Jamaica.
At this point, Reeva had been dating entrepreneur Warren LaHood for 4 years. The couple also lived together in Johannesburg. Their relationship was seemingly smooth, and LaHood was supportive of Reeva's modeling career. In 2012, a few months before Reeva went to Jamaica to film Tropical Island of Treasure, the couple broke up, but they remained friends. Reeva began looking for another apartment. In the meantime, she moved in with the family of her close friend, Gina Myers. By the time Reeva starred in Tropical Island, she was known as a well-established model and not a celebrity. Tropica actively elevated her status over the next 4 months by featuring her on talk shows and including her in celebrity cook-offs. Sarit Tomilson, Reeva's publicist, told Vanity Fair, quote, "When you're a celebrity, you have a mouth, a platform, a voice, where you can make yourself heard, whether on Twitter, TV, radio, or any medium." Reeva was passionate about violence against women and giving women a voice. While she continued pursuing her career, she became friends with Justin Devaris, who would introduce her to Oscar Pistorius. In an affidavit, Justin Devaris recalled the day Oscar and Reeva met. He said, quote, "On the 4th of November, I hosted a track day at Kyalami Racetrack. I independently invited Oscar and Reeva to come and enjoy the day's festivities. I introduced them, and it was apparent that Oscar and Reeva were immediately attracted to one another. Oscar invited her to accompany him to the South African Sports Awards ceremony that evening. She accepted, and they attended the event, where they were famously photographed with Reeva in a pink tassel dress."
Hi, I'm Oscar's date tonight. He needed a date at the last minute, so it's like, Reeva, just throw your stuff together and come and be my date. So.
Oscar allegedly pursued Reeva persistently. According to Reeva's publicist, it was instant for Oscar, but it wasn't for Reeva. According to some of her friends and colleagues, Reeva was passionate and serious about her career and didn't want to just be known as Oscar's girlfriend. While she was initially cautious, Oscar's pursuit intensified. In an interview, Gina Myers, who was hosting Reeva at her family home, said that Oscar became overwhelming. Gina's father, Cecil Myers, who was equally protective of Reeva, allegedly told Oscar, quote, "If you want this girl, you need to give her some space." He didn't listen. He was here all the time. Then she started going to him, and we never saw him again. The two began dating in November 2012. As a couple, they frequently attended red carpet events together, and Oscar regularly shared pictures of them on social media. He also showered her with gifts. In an interview with the Sunday Times, Reeva praised Oscar as an impeccable man who always had her best interests at heart. While some admired the relationship, others had reservations about Oscar. Despite their public image of being deeply in love, there were warning signs observed by those close to Reeva. In an interview, Kim, Reeva's cousin, recounted a breakfast outing in Cape Town with the couple where she sensed that something was off between them. Despite appearing happy together, Reeva hinted at underlying issues that she couldn't discuss at the table. Kim asked if she was happy, to which Reeva hesitantly replied, yes. But Kim sensed there was something more to it. Reeva mentioned they would talk about it later, but they never did. On February 13, 2013, Reeva texted her friend Gina Myers that she would be spending the night at Oscar's house. Just before 6 p.m., Reeva was recorded driving her car through the massive gates of Silverwood's country estate. That was the last time she was seen alive. According to Oscar, at around 10 p.m. on February 13, 2013, Oscar and Reeva were in his bedroom. He was watching TV in bed while Reeva was doing yoga. After finishing her exercises, she joined him in bed and they fell asleep. Later in the night, Oscar woke up and brought a fan inside from the balcony. He then heard a noise coming from the bathroom. Concerned, he retrieved a 9mm Parabellum pistol from under the bed and headed to the bathroom, shouting for Reeva to call the police and warning the intruders to leave. It was pitch dark in the bedroom and Oscar thought Reeva was in bed. Upon entering the bathroom, he saw the open window and heard movements in the closed toilet door. Believing an intruder was inside, he fired 4 shots at the door before asking Reeva to call the police. When he got no response from her, he backed out of the bathroom only to discover an empty bed. Realizing Reeva may be inside the toilet, he returned to the bathroom calling her name but found the toilet door locked. Panicking, he went to the balcony to call for help. He then put on his prosthetic legs and attempted to kick the door down, but failed. He picked up a cricket bat and broke a few door panels before finding the key and unlocking the door. He saw Reeva on the toilet seat, wounded but still alive. He called Estate Administrator Johan Stander for help and then contacted Netcare, South Africa's emergency medical services. He then carried Reeva downstairs and attempted mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on her. One of the first responders at the scene was a neighbor, Dr. Johan Stipp, who performed a jaw lift maneuver on Reeva to try to open her airway. Upon assessing the situation, he observed that she had no peripheral pulse, displayed no signs of breathing movements, and her pupils were fixed and dilated. It was evident that she had sustained fatal injuries. At around 4:15 a.m. on February 14th, Detective Hilton Botha entered Oscar's house and saw Reeva's lifeless body covered with towels at the bottom of the staircase. Botha observed 3 bullet wounds, one on the right side of her head, her right elbow, and on her right hip. Heading upstairs, the detective approached the bathroom and noticed a 9mm bullet cartridge outside the entrance. Inside the bathroom, he found 3 more cartridges, a silver Taurus 9mm firearm on the bath mat in front of the shower, and a bloody cricket bat in front of a wash basin. Detective Botha noticed that there was no signs of forced entry. He later said, quote, "The only place there could have been an entrance was the open bathroom window, and we did everything we could to see if anyone could fit and go through it, and it was impossible." Botha went into the garage where Oscar was sitting on a bench in a bloody shirt and shorts, wearing his prosthetic legs. He said, quote, "His head was in his hands and he was crying. There was blood on him, but his hands were clean. We asked if he washed his hands, and he said yes, because they were full of blood. Contrary to Oscar's version of events, witnesses told police that they heard a woman scream, followed by moments of silence, then they heard gunshots and more screaming. They also confirmed that Reeva had locked herself in the toilet cubicle. Oscar Pistorious was arrested and charged with murder. The media descended on the story, and false reports started circulating that Oscar had been surprised by his girlfriend in the middle of the night and that the shooting was a result of a Valentine's Day surprise gone wrong. Police spokeswoman Denise Bukes rejected these claims in a statement.
Obviously, our forensic investigation is still ongoing. We're not sure where this report came from. It definitely didn't come from the South African Police Service. Our detectives have been on the scene, our forensic investigators have been on the scene, and the investigation is ongoing. We can confirm that there was a shooting incident this morning at the home of the well-known Paralympic athlete Oscar Pistorious. A 26-year-old male has been arrested and has been charged with murder. At this stage, he's on his way to a visit to the district surgeon for a medical examination, and he'll be appearing in the Pretoria Magistrates Court at 2 o'clock this afternoon. No special treatment whatsoever. The person was arrested this morning. He was taken to the police station like any other normal person who's detained and arrested. Yes, he has made a request to be brought to court immediately. Remember, then from the South African Police Service's side, we will be opposing bail that you can place on record. We will be opposing the bail application. This person will be bringing a bail application this afternoon. We will be opposing bail.
Oscar was then released on bail. After the arrest, the detectives shifted their focus to Oscar's recent behavior. The high-profile murder trial revealed Oscar Pistorius' darker side, portraying him as a volatile man with a love of guns, beautiful women, and fast cars. In 2008, Oscar crashed his speedboat into a pier on the Vaal River, resulting in a broken jaw, several fractured ribs, and a damaged eye socket. After waking up from a 3-day coma, he had 180 stitches on his face. Although alcoholic beverages were allegedly discovered on the boat, no blood tests were conducted on him, and authorities allegedly chose not to pursue prosecution. In September 2009, Oscar spent a night in jail for allegedly assaulting a 19-year-old woman. At the police station, Oscar allegedly signed autographs and posed for photographs for infatuated officers. The case was dropped and Oscar sued the woman for 22 million rand, claiming his arrest led to sponsorship losses. The woman countersued, and the legal standoff persisted for years until a few weeks after Reeva's death, when Oscar allegedly withdrew his claim and engaged in settlement negotiations. In 2012, Oscar faced accusations of allegedly firing a gun through the sunroof of an ex-girlfriend's moving car. However, the judge on the case ruled that there was insufficient evidence to convict him on that charge. Despite initial positive coverage, sports writers began re-evaluating their portrayal of Oscar. He faced criticism for his behavior, including his attitude at the Olympics and disputes with fellow athletes. The stress of the Olympics allegedly impacted his mood and workouts, leading to aggressive behavior. He reportedly earned $2 million annually from international sponsors, and allegedly there was reluctance to halt this lucrative support. Consequently, these incidents were downplayed. Oscar openly expressed his love for guns. There were reports claiming that he had been detained in Amsterdam when gunpowder residue was found on his prosthetics. On a different occasion, he brought a New York Times journalist to a shooting range.
In these exclusive pictures, he's firing a Mossberg semi-automatic shotgun, one of the 7 weapons he was trying to buy in the weeks before the shooting of his girlfriend.
In an interview with the Daily Mail at his home prior to the London 2012 Olympics, there were indications that Oscar was concerned about his safety. Journalists noticed cricket and baseball bats placed behind his door. Oscar admitted to sleeping with a pistol next to his bed and having a machine gun near a window for fear of burglars. A few weeks before he shot Reeva, Oscar accidentally discharged a gun at a restaurant. According to a witness, he was dining with friends and one of them handed him a pistol under the table. The gun accidentally discharged, and the bullet ricocheted and almost hit one of his other friends in the foot. This incident reportedly raised concerns about his recklessness. On February 19, 2013, Oscar appeared at the Pretoria Magistrates Court for his bail hearing. He broke down, sobbing and shaking uncontrollably during the proceedings. Chief Magistrate Desmond Nair offered him words of comfort as Oscar struggled to maintain his composure. The courtroom was packed with over 100 people, including journalists from all over the world. During the hearing, Oscar was accused of premeditated murder, causing him to sob and bow his head in distress. Despite the support of his family members present in court, including his father, brother, and sister, Oscar remained inconsolable. The lead detective argued that Oscar was a flight risk due to his assets and international connections. But Oscar's defense lawyer countered by denying ownership of property abroad and asserting that Oscar's fame would make it difficult for him to flee unnoticed. After a 4-day bail hearing, the magistrate decided that the state had not provided sufficient evidence to demonstrate Oscar as a flight risk, granting him bail set at 1 million rand. However, strict bail conditions were imposed, including surrendering his passport, reporting to a police station daily, abstaining from alcohol, relinquishing all his firearms, and remaining within the Pretoria area. Additionally, he was prohibited from contacting prosecution witnesses and returning to his home, which was considered an active crime scene. In preparation for the media firestorm that this trial brought him, Oscar Pistorius assembled a formidable defense team comprised of medical specialists and experts. Stuart Higgins, a seasoned PR professional, took charge of his public relations. Kenny Aldridge, one of his lawyers, had previously defended a driver acquitted in a high-profile case involving the death of Nelson Mandela's great-grandchild. In a controversial move, Oscar organized a private memorial service for Reeva a week after her funeral, which was held at his uncle's home in Pretoria, where he was staying on bail. Security kept journalists at bay, while Oscar's siblings attended the ceremony. The service was leaked to the media and drew criticism from Reeva's loved ones, who saw it as an attempt to manipulate public opinion rather than a genuine tribute. Shashi Naidu, a friend of Reeva, expressed disappointment, arguing that a truly private service wouldn't have been announced to the press. The trial of Oscar Pistorius began on March 3, 2014, in Pretoria's High Court under Judge Thokozile Masipa and 2 assessors. Oscar faced charges of murder, illegal possession of ammunition, and firing a gun in a public space. The trial made legal history in South Africa by being televised live, drawing significant attention nationally and globally. It garnered widespread viewership, causing disruptions in workplaces as people tuned in to the dedicated TV channels that extensively covered it. The intense public interest, fueled by social media, led to obsessive debate, marking the shift in the public perception of Oscar from a national hero to a villain. At trial, Oscar's lead defense advocate, Barry Rue, argued that Oscar believed he was acting in self-defense when he shot at what he thought was an intruder with no intention to kill Reeva. He also argued that Oscar did not intend to act unlawfully. The prosecution argued that Oscar was wearing his prosthetic legs during the shooting. They said that the time taken to put them on was evidence of premeditation. Oscar testified that he put on his prosthetic legs after the shooting. The defense further pointed out that Oscar would not have been able to balance on his stumps while swinging a cricket bat with enough force to break down the door. Oscar's testimony was supported by a ballistic expert's analysis who confirmed that he was wearing his prosthetic legs when he fired the shots. The prosecution then argued that Oscar and Reeva had an argument before the shooting. Despite living 177 meters away, their first witness claimed to hear Reeva screaming from behind the closed toilet door. However, an acoustic engineer testified that it was highly unlikely the screams would be audible from that distance. A married couple living nearby claimed to have heard a man crying loudly in a high-pitched voice and calling for help. Another neighbor described the sounds as cries of pain. Several other witnesses reported hearing a woman's screams and gunshots, but the defense suggested that it was Oscar screaming for help and the gunshots were sounds of the door being broken down by the cricket bat. Oscar's lawyer suggested that the screams came from Oscar, whose voice may have sounded like a woman when he screamed, but the prosecution challenged this claim, pointing out that the defense did not call witnesses to substantiate their claim that Oscar sounds like a woman when he screams. The defense also argued that Reeva couldn't have cried out after being shot in the head. Oscar's ex-girlfriend, Samantha Taylor, who began dating him in 2011, was among the witnesses who testified at the trial. Her testimony provided insight into Oscar's behavior and contradicted key parts of his defense. She described Oscar as having a short temper, often screaming when angry and cheating on her. She also talked about Oscar's habit of always carrying a gun with him, even to social events. Taylor recounted an incident where Oscar fired a gun out of the sunroof of a car in a fit of anger after being stopped by police. Taylor testified that she used to sleep at Oscar's house 4 nights a week. She recounted an incident where Oscar woke her in the middle of the night to ask if she heard noises. He then searched the house with a gun but found nothing. This testimony was introduced by the prosecution to challenge Oscar's claim that he didn't wake Reeva on the night of the shooting. Taylor also recalled an incident in April 2012 when Oscar confronted a car that was following them. She said he jumped out with his gun and held it to the window of the other car, which then disappeared. The prosecution asked Taylor if Oscar was very scared of an attack, to which she responded that he carried a gun for safety but wasn't necessarily scared. She also testified that Oscar never kept the gun under the bed. She said he slept with it either on the bedside table or next to his prosthetic legs. On 9th April 2014, Oscar Pistorius took the stand. He began his testimony by apologizing to Reeva's parents.
My lady, if I may just please start off with my evidence by tendering an apology. I would like to take this opportunity to apologize to Mrs. and Mr. Steenkamp, to Reeva's family, to those of you who knew her who are here today. I'd like to apologize and say that there's not a moment, and there hasn't been a moment since this tragedy happened that I haven't thought about your family. I wake up every morning and you're the first people I think of, the first people I pray for. I can't imagine the pain and the sorrow and the emptiness that I've caused you and your family. I was simply trying to protect Reeva. I can promise that when she went to bed that night, she felt loved. I've tried to put my words on paper many, many times to write to you, but no words would ever suffice.
Afterwards, his defense lawyer, Barry Rue, led him through an account of his life, with Oscar describing some of the hardships he faced after having his lower legs amputated as a baby. He also talked about the positive role of his mother Sheila and his grief when she died when he was a teenager. He spoke about the sacrifices he had made for his athletic achievements, his work with charity, and how religion was important to him. Oscar told the court that he was taking antidepressant medication and was tortured by panic attacks. He said, quote, "If I hear a noise, I always wake up, just in a complete state of terror, to the point where I would rather not sleep." Oscar's testimony also addressed previous instances of crime that affected him and how he felt vulnerable because of them. He described how his family had security concerns when he was young and that his mother slept with a gun under a pillow on her bed. He said his family had been targeted by criminals over the years, citing incidents of house break-ins and carjackings, and said he had sometimes been followed by unidentified people while driving home. He referred to an incident in which he was allegedly at a social function in late 2012 and had to have stitches on the back of his head. Oscar then emotionally recounted his version of events on the night of the shooting.
I woke up, my lady, in the early hours of the 14th of February. It was extremely warm in my room. I sat up in bed. Reeva was still awake, or she was obviously not sleeping. She rolled over to me and she said, "Can't you sleep, my baba?" And I said, "No, I can't." And I got out on my side of the bed. I got to the fans, where the fans were. I placed it pretty much just inside the room. I then proceeded to close the sliding doors and lock them.
Oscar said he heard a noise coming from his bathroom, and that's when everything changed, and he thought that a burglar was in his home.
The first thing that ran through my mind was that I needed to arm myself, that I needed to protect Reeva and I, that I needed to get my gun.
Oscar said that he went back to the bedroom and got his gun from under his bed and whispered for Reeva to get on the floor and call the police. He then continued screaming for the intruders to leave his house, and he silently walked over to the bathroom holding his gun out so as not to alert the intruders of his location.
I heard a door slam, which could have only been the toilet door. I couldn't see into the bathroom at this point, but I could hear the door slam. And for me to confirm that there was personal people inside the toilet, I was screaming again for Reeva to phone the police. I wasn't sure where to point the firearm. I had it pointed at the toilet, but my eyes were going between the window and the toilet. And then I heard a noise from inside the toilet, what I perceived to be somebody coming out of the toilet. Before I knew it, I'd fired 4 shots at the door. My ears were ringing, I couldn't hear anything. So I shouted, I kept on shouting for Reeva to phone the police. No one responded to me. At that point I lifted myself up onto the bed and I placed my hand back to the right hand side of the bed, and I looked, I felt if Reeva was there and I couldn't feel anything. The first thing I thought was maybe that she got down onto the floor like I told her to. Maybe she was just scared. I think it was at that point, my lady, that it first dawned upon me that it could be Reeva that was in the bathroom or in the toilet.
Oscar said he started to panic, shouting for help and trying to open the toilet door when he couldn't find Reeva. He then put on his prosthetic legs and tried to kick the door down. When that didn't work, he got a baseball bat and started hitting the door until he was able to open it. He broke into tears in court when he described finding Reeva inside the toilet.
And I sat over Reeva and I cried. She wasn't breathing.
I think we'll take an adjournment.
During cross-examination, Prosecutor Harry Nell, also known as the Bull Terrier for his aggressive interrogations, accused Oscar of lacking remorse and suggested that his emotional displays in court were due to frustration with the improbable nature of his version of events. Nell painted him as a hothead with an inflated sense of entitlement. The prosecution focused on Oscar's character and his passion for guns. Prosecutor Harry Nell grilled him on the discrepancies of his testimony.
You never heard the deceased get up?
I did not, my lady.
Never heard anything on the bed creak or anything on the bed?
I did not, my lady.
When you heard the noise, you never discussed the noise with her?
I did not discuss the noise with her, my lady.
Never said, Reeva, did you hear that?
I didn't say that, my lady.
I asked, did you say that?
I did not, my lady.
Why not? She's awake.
I was not confused about what I'd heard, my lady.
You shouldn't be confused, but did you not check with her? Reeva, did you hear that? I never said what I heard. She's awake. Of your whole version, Mr. Pistorius, this is the most improbable. Reeva at that stage is 3 meters away from you, and she never uttered a word. She would be scared, she would shout out and talk to you. You're in the same room.
My lady, at no point did Reeva shout out or scream. I wish she let me know she was there. She did not do that.
Just listen to my question. After you fired the first shot, did she scream?
No, my lady.
Are you sure?
Yes, my lady.
Would you have heard her?
I don't think I would have heard it. There was a gunshot that went off, my lady. My ears were ringing.
That's why I'm asking you the question. How can you exclude the fact that she was screaming if you couldn't hear?
Prosecutor Nell then accused Oscar of changing his defense.
Is it your defense that you fired at the attacker?
I fired at the door, my lady.
No, but listen to my question, Mr. Pistorius. I'm not going to let this one go. Is it your defense that you fired at the perceived attacker?
No, that's not mine.
Good. Then, what is your defense?
My defense is, as I said, my lady, I heard the noise and I didn't have time to interpret it, and I fired my firearm out of fear, my lady.
No, then out of fear, you now have to give a lot of answers. And you know why, Mr. Pistorius? It's because you know exactly. You fired at Reeva. These other versions of yours cannot work.
True,
you fired
my lady.
at her. You did. Why are you getting emotional now?
I did not fire at Reeva.
My lady, the witness is emotional. May we take a adjournment again? I'm going to argue that you got emotional because you got your defenses mixed up. And that's the reason why you just got emotional. Nothing else. What do you want to say to that?
It's not true, my lady.
Prosecutor Nell continued with a brutal cross-examination, demanding that Oscar take responsibility for his actions.
You made a mistake.
That's correct.
You killed a person, that's what you did, isn't it?
I made a mistake, my lady.
You killed Reeva Steenkamp, that's what you did.
I made a mistake, my lady.
You're repeating it 3 times. What was your mistake?
My mistake is that I took Reeva's life, my lady.
You killed her, you shot and killed her.
In earlier testimony, a pathologist testified that Reeva was shot with black talon hollow point bullets which open up into a petal-like shape on impact and were designed to cause maximum damage. The court was shown a Sky News report showing Oscar at a shooting range.
What is a zombie stopper?
I have no idea what a zombie stopper is.
Have you never been in the presence of any person using the word zombie stopper?
Not that I can recall, my lady.
Oscar Pistorious, as you've never seen him before. And in these pictures uncovered by Sky News, the athlete shows his prowess at handling a gun.
Hold on. When you ready? You're ready. Okay.
Screams of delight, but listen to the voice of a man who sounds very much like Oscar Pistorious.
It's a lot softer than brain, but it's like a zombie stopper.
But what we can see there is the effect the ammunition had on a watermelon. It exploded. Am I right?
That's correct, my lady.
You know that the same happened to Reeva's head. It exploded. Have a look.
My lady, I was there that night.
That's it. Have a look there, mister. I know you don't want to because you don't want to take responsibility, but it's time that you look at it. Take responsibility for what you've done, Mr. Pistorius.
My lady, I've taken responsibility by me waiting and not wanting to live my life, but waiting for my time on this stand to tell my story for the respect of Reeva and for myself. I've taken responsibility, but I will not look at a picture where I'm tormented by what I saw and felt that night. As I picked Reeva up, my fingers touched her head. I remember. I don't have to look at a picture. I was there.
It's the same thing as the watermelon. You had it now in practice, mister. It's softer than brains.
Prosecutor Nell said that WhatsApp messages between the couple showed that they were having problems. The messages were read out in court by a police mobile phone expert. The court sat in silence as Reeva's words were heard for the first time. In one of the texts, on 27th January 2013, she tells Oscar, quote, "You have picked on me excessively. I do everything to make you happy, and you do everything to throw tantrums. I'm scared of you sometimes, and how you snap at me, and of how you will react to me. You make me happy 90% of the time, and I think we're amazing together, but I'm not some other bitch trying to kill your vibe. I'm the girl who fell in love with you, but I'm also the girl who gets sidestepped when you're in a shit mood. I get snapped at and told my accent and voices are annoying. The text also revealed that Reeva disliked Oscar's jealousy. She said, quote, "We are living in a double standard relationship. Every 5 seconds, I hear about how you dated another chick. You really have dated a lot of people. Yet you get upset if I mention one funny story with a long-term boyfriend." In one incident, Reeva was upset about being forced to leave a friend's engagement party early. She said, quote, "I was not flirting with anyone today. I feel sick that you suggested it. I'm terribly disappointed how the day ended." Oscar wrote back and said, "I want to talk to you. I want to sort this out. I don't want to have anything less than amazing for you, and I'm sorry for the things I saw without thinking and for taking offense of some of your actions. I was upset that you had just left me after we got food to talk to a guy, and I was standing right behind you, watching you touch his arm and ignore me. And when I spoke up, you introduced me, which you could have done, but when I left, you just kept on chatting to him, when clearly I was upset." The couple, who had been dating for a few months, had a further argument when they had attended a function, and Reeva felt publicly humiliated. She texted him later saying, quote, "I completely understood your desperation to leave, and I thought I would be helping you by getting to the exit before you, because I can't rush in the heels I was wearing. I thought it would make a difference in us getting out without you being harassed anymore. I don't think you would criticize me for doing that, especially not so loudly that others could hear. I might joke around and be all tomboyish at times, but I regard myself as a lady, and I did feel like one tonight after the way you treated me when we left. I'm a person too, and I appreciate that you invited me out tonight, and I realize that you get harassed, but I'm trying my best to make you happy, and I feel as though you sometimes never are, no matter the effort I put in. I can't be attacked by outsiders for dating you and be attacked by you, the one person I deserve protection from." The court also had messages in which Oscar appeared to confirm allegations that he asked a friend, Darren Fresco, to take the blame after a gun went off in a restaurant. He texted Reeva saying, quote, "Angel, please don't say a thing to anyone. Darren told everyone it was his fault. I can't afford for that to come out. The guys promised not to say a thing." Despite the evidence of a volatile relationship, the phone expert said that 90% of all the messages were normal and loving conversations. However, prosecutor Nell said that Oscar and Reeva's relationship couldn't be described as normal because the relationship ended in death. During closing arguments, prosecutor Nell said that Oscar was an appalling witness whose testimony was devoid of truth. He said that Oscar prioritized self-preservation over providing an honest account to the court. He added that his actions in fetching the gun and walking down the corridor towards the bathroom indicated premeditation. He said, quote, "He had lots of time for reflection. He made up his mind in the bedroom when he armed himself. That is pre-planning." The prosecution disputed Oscar's claim that he and Reeva went to bed at 10 p.m., presenting evidence that they were awake and arguing. Witnesses testified to hearing an argument, and Reeva's stomach contents indicated she was awake and eating at around 1 a.m., 2 hours before her death at 3 a.m. Nell told the judge, quote, "The accused intended to kill a human being. He knew there was a human being in that toilet. That's his evidence. He is guilty of murder. There must be consequences for it."
Mr. Pistorius, please stand up. Having regard to the totality of this evidence, in this matter, the unanimous decision of this court is the following. On count 1, murder read with section 51(1) of the Criminal Law Amendment Act, the accused is found not guilty and is discharged. Instead, he is found guilty of culpable homicide.
Oscar was convicted of culpable homicide or manslaughter for using excessive force and negligence by firing 4 shots at the toilet door, knowing someone was behind it. Additionally, he was found guilty of reckless endangerment with a firearm, but acquitted of charges related to discharging a firearm through the sunroof of a car and illegal possession of ammunition. During his sentence hearing, his defense attorney, Barry Rue, argued that Oscar was a broken man who deserved leniency. During the trial, he had undergone psychiatric assessment. A defense forensic psychologist told the court that Oscar had suffered from generalized anxiety disorder since childhood, pointing to the amputation of his legs when he was just 11 months old, the divorce of his parents when he was 6, and the death of his mother at 15. Given his disability, the psychologist argued that Oscar was more likely to respond to any threat with fight rather than flight. The prosecution then requested that he undergo mental observation. A panel of 4 doctors concluded that he did not suffer from a mental disorder and that he knew right from wrong. It also revealed that Oscar was suffering from PTSD from the shooting and would need continuing psychiatric care or he could become suicidal. Oscar Pistorious removed his prosthetic legs and walked to the front of the courtroom. His lawyer emphasized that when he was on his stumps, his balance was seriously compromised, and without anything, he won't be able to defend himself. His defense attorney said that, quote, he was anxious, he was frightened, he was suffering from anxiety disorder, and that's not gone. This must all be seen in the context of his disability. It was not the man winning gold medals that must be judged. It's the man standing on his stumps at 3 o'clock in the morning in the dark that must be judged. The shooting has changed his life forever. He can never resume his career. He has punished himself and will punish himself for the rest of his life, far more than any court of law can punish him. His lawyers pleaded with a judge to sentence him to community service rather than prison. However, Prosecutor Nell said Oscar could not truly be remorseful when he had failed to give a satisfactory account of why he had fired the fatal shots. Nell said that the broken man was not Oscar. The broken man was Reeva's father, Barry Steenkamp.
I got a phone call from June. I couldn't really understand what she was so upset about, screaming and shouting. And on my way home I tried to fathom out what she tried to tell me. Then I realized that she mentioned Reeva. She says, come home immediately, and Reeva's name was there. And that's when I started the panic. And then driving home I realized more and more Reeva's been killed. It hit me then. It's like it happened yesterday. I ended up having a stroke. And so many things since then have happened where I've gone to doctors and to surgeons, which I still have to go in for my heart. I don't wish that on any human being. Finding out what happened, it devastated us at times. I thought with the pain that Reeva went through, I used to just, I don't know whether I was going mental or whatever, but I used to take my fist and hit it up there against the walls with my knuckles. My injection from my diabetes, I used to take the needle and shove it and turn it into my stomach and my arms to see if I could feel the same type of pain.
Barry went on to say that he and his wife June were struggling to come to terms with their daughter's death. They were also finding it difficult to forgive Oscar.
My lady, it's been very difficult for me to forgive. But I feel the same, that Oscar has to pay for what he did. He has to pay for it.
Oscar Pistorious was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment for the culpable homicide of Reeva Steenkamp. On October 20th, 2015, after only 1 year, Oscar was released from prison to spend the remainder of his 4-year sentence under house arrest. On 3rd December 2015, South Africa's Court of Appeal overruled Judge Masipa and convicted Oscar of murder. The decision by the 5 judges was unanimous. Justice Eric Leach said that since Oscar used a high-caliber weapon and had firearms training, he should have realized that whoever was behind the door might die. Finding him guilty of murder, the panel of appeal judges described the case as a human tragedy of Shakespearean proportions and sentenced him to 6 years in prison. However, the state argued that the 6-year sentence was shockingly lenient. In 2017, his sentence was increased to 13 years and 5 months. In South Africa, prisoners become eligible for parole after serving half their sentence. The parole board takes a number of factors into account, including the prisoner's conduct and disciplinary record in prison, their mental health, and the likelihood of them committing another crime. Part of the process is called the Victim-Offender Dialogue, which gives the victims of crime the chance to meet with offenders before they become eligible for parole. On July 1, 2022, Oscar met with Reeva's father, Barry Steenkamp, as part of the Victim-Offender Dialogue process. At the meeting, Barry asked Oscar to finally admit that he deliberately shot Reeva while she was hiding in his bathroom. When Oscar stuck to his story that he believed he had been shooting at an intruder, Barry said that he and his wife June could not grant him their forgiveness. On the 5th of January 2024, Oscar Pistorious was released on parole after having served 9 years of his sentence. He will serve the remainder of his sentence under the country's community corrections system. He must attend programs on gender-based violence and continue anger management therapy. General conditions of parole will also apply, including a curfew, abstaining from alcohol and drugs, and participating in designated programs. He is also forbidden from contacting Reeva's family, posting on social media, giving interviews, or releasing a memoir on his experience. He will be subject to these parole conditions until his sentence expires in 2029. Oscar is currently living in Pretoria with his uncle, Arnold Pistorius, in a 3-story mansion with a fortified compound that allegedly has armed guards, electronic defenses, and several attack dogs. Since leaving prison, Oscar, who is now 37 years old, has reportedly had no luck finding paid work. According to the New York Post, Oscar allegedly contacted at least 2 members of the International Paralympic Committee to inquire about working together in some capacity, only to be turned down. One of the members allegedly said, quote, "He's too toxic to work with now. There's nothing for him here." Oscar is currently volunteering as a janitor and maintenance man at a church his uncle attends. Reeva was laid to rest on February 19, 2013, at a private funeral in Port Elizabeth, attended by more than 100 relatives and friends.
We're going to keep all the positive things that we remember and know about my sister, and we will try and continue with the things that she tried to make better. We'll miss her. That's it.
Unfortunately, my brother couldn't make it. But we are here today as a family.
But there's only one thing missing, it's Reeva. We've got together, but we've missed one.
In 2015, Reeva's mother, June Steenkamp, founded the Reeva Rebecca Steenkamp Foundation in honor of her daughter. She said, quote, "I want to fulfill Reeva's dream of starting a foundation to help victims, women, and children of domestic abuse. I don't want people to forget Reeva and what she stood for. She was terribly taken up by strong feelings of doing something to help abused women, and I want to carry on that work for her."
We hope the Reeva Pack becomes something that anybody in a domestic violence situation can recognize, relate to. It's really going to make, we hope, a big difference to many, many women and children in domestic violence situations.
She also wrote a book titled Reeva, A Mother's Story.
Actually feeling passionate about what I'm doing. And we hope to save lots of other women from Reeva's fate. That's what drives me.
On 14th September 2023, Barry Steenkamp, Reeva's father, passed away. He was 80 years old.
But I think my husband died of a broken heart. He was very strange when he died. He just went to bed early and he just passed away in his sleep. But he could not live without our daughter. She was the most wonderful person, the most loving, caring. She loved us and cared for us.
After Oscar's release from prison, Reeva's mother, June, released a statement saying, quote, "With the release of Oscar Pistorious on parole, my only desire is that I will be allowed to live my last years in peace, with my focus remaining on the Reeva Steenkamp Foundation to continue Reeva's legacy. There can never be justice if your loved one is never coming back, and no amount of time served will bring Reeva back. We who remain behind are the ones serving a life sentence. May Reeva's soul rest in peace." If you or anyone you know is experiencing gender-based violence, you could contact the numbers on your screen. I managed to find some South African GBV helplines that I've shared. Of course, if you're from a different country, you could also share their hotlines in the comment section. For example, if you're Kenyan like me, you could reach out to organizations such as Usikimye or FIDA, and you can get some help there. The Reeva Steenkamp Foundation is still active on social media. If you'd like to know more about them or offer your support and donate, you could reach out to them on their Instagram or Facebook pages. Thank you so much for listening and watching until the end. I would like to know your thoughts on this case. Feel free to comment, but remember to be respectful and mindful of your words. The channel has really grown since my previous upload, and I'd like to thank all 2,863 of you as of the time of this recording for interacting and subscribing to my channel. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you haven't already. My name is Faith Njoroge and I will see you on the next one. Bye!